CEO Glenn Briggs, a former colleague of mine, said, our core business is broadband, i.e. it is not video. So they have another business now where they're trying to make money in that's different from our business. So even our traditional distributors, if you will, are now making money a different way. Then we get to the new guys, right, to the new folks. Apple primarily wants to sell hardware. They want there to be, and by the way, we have lots of relationships with Apple and we like each other a lot. However, their business strategy is to sell hardware at high prices. If they can sell hardware at high prices with content that comes, or availability that comes at low prices, that's a really good thing for them, right? And Amazon
is serving the masters with the traditional buyers and a whole fleet, a whole new generation of new buyers. And what the talk has been is that these new buyers need to differentiate from the old with very different business models. And there's been a lot of talk about, for instance, Apple in particular is just going to blow up the whole existing model with an a la carte offering over their mystical new ITV machine that may or may not exist. Is that even possible, given the contracts you're under with Comcast, for, say, Apple to start to offer, FX for $5 or just Sons of Anarchy for 99 cents? Like, what could be done there?
There are things that can be done. I think, first of all, to your point, yes, I think people are I said earlier, everyone has now a content strategy. By definition, those content strategies are going to be different than the existing ones, right? That's because you're getting into a market late, or an existing market, you're going to try to disrupt it in some form, and you're going to try to disrupt it to your advantage. So, by definition, people are coming in with different kinds of strategies, and they really relate to how much content is available, is it on demand, or is it linear, and how much library product is available. Essentially, it boils down to questions like that. And then what are the companion experiences we'll have around it? And who sells the advertising? What other distribution rights are attached to it? And everyone's going to have a somewhat different take. But yes, a lot of that has already been baked into deals, and there are limitations to what can be done. But there's still a lot of room for this to take place. And I do think that one of the big forces or questions is how big the force will be in this calendar year to create over-the-top services that aren't really additions to existing large bundles by the MSOs and BPDs, but are potentially replacements. And I'm not saying that's something we're trying to welcome or facilitate overly, but you'd wonder how much force has been gathered behind that, and does somebody sort of crack, and does allow it to happen? And you would imagine Apple has the wherewithal to induce people to do that, because they can simply overpay for whatever value they're trying to extract and hope to get it back.
Technology that we're now just at the very beginning of seeing out there, cloud and remote access to multiple devices, whether it's iCloud or ultraviolet, which I'm sure we'll talk more about. Going forward, that sort of technology really differentially advantages ownership rather than rental. You don't need multiple points of access to something you're renting if you're going to watch it once. So we really think that what these technologies are going to enable is a shift back towards the direction of ownership and a lot of incremental consumer value from their content as you now think about what can you do with the product digitally, for example, that you couldn't really do physically before. And all that stuff is kind of underpinned by the cloud.
I can only speak as a marketer for Fox. And as a marketer, I think it's exciting to, as people embrace digital platforms and devices, we obviously, it's a very personalized experience of a lot of these cloud services, and if we can start to understand what type of content people are consuming, there's going to be the ability to target and market to them directly, which will bring efficiencies to our marketing, which is what we desperately need to bring films to people to enjoy.
So Matt, clearly you're a cloud-based organization yourself. What are you looking at this as?
Yeah, for us, we're in a really unique position because we don't really have a a dog in the fight. We're just a place that, I think we believe that friend recommendation, trusted referrals from people that you know are really the best way to discover content. And I think, any of these solutions, whether it's all access or ultraviolet, or iTunes, as long as they're frictionless and you're able to kind of deduce what your friends are looking at, what they want, what they're desiring. I think some of the new edge tools that we released have made it really powerful for people to kind of find things, because when you have access to everything, that discovery piece is so critical. I mean, seeing what your friends care about and people who you think have a good point of view around titles in particular is a really good source. So obviously we're stoked about this, and we've become a big driver of traffic to YouTube and all services.
So John, I mean, leaving aside residuals and payments and those kind of issues, as a content creator, do you view this as a huge opportunity, or do you just see this as another channel?
I think the challenge right now is when I make a movie and someone says, "Oh, where can I find your movie?" And when we're talking about a DVD, I can say, "Well, you go to Target, you buy the DVD at Target." If I say, "Well, online, where do I find my movie?" It's like, well, I have no idea. Like, maybe it's in iTunes, and so I can check in iTunes, or it's on Crackle, or it's on one of these other services. So I really like Lori's analogy of the bank. It's like, an ATM is great, and you can use your card to draw money from a machine, but right now you can't draw from a lot of different machines. And so I want to be able to point to somebody who's like, you can find that movie everywhere. It's at this place, but hopefully everywhere. And right now, a lot of times I find out that my movie's available someplace because someone, like one of my Twitter followers, says "Hey, did you know your movie's on Crackle?" And I was like, "No, I didn't."
So Thomas Warner, was at the front of DVD. I was working with you as a client at that time. You've been a strong voice in ultraviolet. What's your point of view on that?
Yeah, I mean, to echo John and Lori, we think the cloud is an enormous opportunity, and in particular to preference ownership. And it allows us for the first time to give the consumer something fundamentally new in terms of cloud-based storage when they make a purchase decision. Going forward with services like ultraviolet, when you buy a DVD or a Blu-ray disc, or you buy an electronic copy online, it'll come with a permanent copy in the cloud. And it means you can access it across a wide range of devices. You're not bound to a single retailer or a single operating system or a single tablet system or app store. You can choose the devices you want and access it anytime, anywhere, over time. It's a way of future-proofing the experience for consumers, and it comes out of years of research with consumers, asking them what they want, and being told over and over again that the technology is confusing, that multiple DRMs are difficult to understand, that nobody wants to go to a Walmart or a Best Buy and look at their mobile phone or their tablet or their computer and not know whether the movies they purchased a year ago are going to work on that new device. They want to know for sure that it's going to work. And ultraviolet and cloud-based services in general allow that. And they also allow you to do the same thing going backward. They allow the prospect of things like letting people take the DVDs they already have in their home and digitize them, make them available in the cloud. And there have been some great announcements at the show already about the potential of that and some of the devices coming out over the coming year that will enable that. But the average American household has 100 DVDs on the shelves. And it's never been possible to legally put your DVDs into the cloud, and with things like ultraviolet, it will be, and we think that's a huge new benefit we can deliver to the consumer.
The ecosystem, Amazon are working on a complete ecosystem. Sony this week announced, product network content as the ecosystem. How are the studios going to work with the device manufacturers to kind of regain some of the ground, that's gone towards the other folks? And I should mention that we're also SAP powers the iTunes platform, so I have a conflict there. Thomas, let's go with you.
Well, I think when you look at something like ultraviolet, the solution there is really straightforward, and that's that you have an ecosystem comprised of many, many companies from many different industries, all the ones that you mentioned. Ultraviolet has more than 75 members in the consortium, major studios, device manufacturers, service providers, application developers across all industries involved in this cloud-based movie video ecosystem. And the whole idea is to create a very simple standard for how do you store and manage video in the cloud. How do you manage consumers' movie and television collections? And that, I think, allows everyone to create the experience that's right for their consumers. So if you're a device manufacturer, you create the interface that makes sense for your television or your connected DVD player or your tablet. If you're a content owner, you're distributing content throughout the ecosystem. If you're a service provider, you're making content available in the way that makes sense for your customer. And you have one shared way of doing that, one shared database of all the content, one shared database of the consumers, and a simple set of rules for accessing everything in the cloud on a worldwide basis. I think that helps to solve that problem. It's very, very much the ATM example that you use. Every bank is different. Your money can be in a lot of different places. Everybody has a different interest rate. There's lots of different manufacturers of ATM machines around the world. The ATM interface isn't always the same. There's one way to get your money from an ATM, and that helps it to be an understandable thing for the consumer.
Our partnership with CE companies, with platforms, with ecosystems is becoming much, much closer. And as content providers, we're needing to work with those providers much, much further out, and we're much more intertwined. Because of connectivity, it has enabled reach in a way that was never before possible. And what that means is that for us, the lines between a distributor and a marketer are really becoming blurred, because the threshold to move from one to the other is extremely low right now because of that connectivity and reach. So we really have to approach every partner as if they're going to be able to build their own ecosystem, because the fact is that through connectivity, they're going to be able to distribute to people if they choose, and they're going to be able to market to people whether they intend to or not. And so we really approach every company holistically. And we also need to focus on making sure that those ecosystems complement and hand off between each other. Because ultimately, I don't think the consumer sits there, going back to your soccer mom question, on behalf of moms and dads and teenagers and everyone out there, I don't think any of us sits there and goes, gee, I want to watch a movie on this optical disc, or gee, I want to watch a movie through these fiber optic cables, or I'd really love to watch a movie through this theoretical cloud. They're just thinking, I want to watch this movie. Right now I want to watch it on this screen. Who can get it to me in the easiest, simplest, most user-friendly way that's going to cause me the least hassle, and who's going to allow me to move it around, so that if I want to watch it on that screen in 10 minutes or on that screen tomorrow, that I have the ability to do that.
John, you're kind of in a unique position because you have to serve two masters, right? You have the consumer products division, and then you also have to stay open. What's your point of view?
Yeah, it's an interesting way you phrased the question, friend, because you implied a bit of conflict or increasing conflict there. And I think if we were to characterize it, I would go exactly the opposite direction. And we're finding that we need to be ever more complementary in how we approach these things, because the movie viewing experience is changing with these digital connected two-way kinds of platforms. And so if you used to pick up a disc at retail, you had that disc, one set of functionality. We're trying to enable base functionality with Ultraviolet, but all the features and the fun that you might want to have with your collection or with your transactions around movies in a digital environment starts to hinge on things like the editorial, the recommendation engines, the usability about sharing clips or things or representing your collection. There's a ton of, just frankly, software build-out that needs to occur from all these services to bring even more value to what's your underlying movie use. So we love seeing multiple services launched because we love seeing multiple types of innovation out there around film. More customers is always better when you're selling, so we love that. And in fact, we try to figure out ways to make our usage rights more flexible so these customers can innovate around it. But even things like the product itself more flexible. And one very specific example I'll give of that is, we add more metadata to specific films than ever before, so that you can find individual words within the script, where is that scene, songs within the scene, genres or actors, where they pop up within the title. All this stuff.